Permit me to ask you a personal question. Do you Google? Yeah, most of you Google, right? I thought so. Looks like a Googling congregation. It's interesting, isn't it? I remember when the encyclopedia, the World Book Encyclopedia, first came into my house as a child. I can still see myself unpacking it. My grandmother bought it for us. I think I read the whole set 3 times. That was the source of knowledge for us. I read somewhere recently that from the beginning of recorded history, up until the year 1500 AD, all the information that the human family learned and accumulated and discovered doubled by 1950, 450 years later. And since 1950 to the year 2000, it doubled again. And I suspect it's been doubling every year since that time, in areas which you and I have not even thought about. But the accumulation of knowledge is just beyond comprehension almost. It's a good thing we do have a Google, because our homes would be filled with encyclopedias by this time, right? With all that knowledge that we want to know about. But there are some things you just can't Google. And one of them is, what happens after death? You can Google people's opinions. You can Google what human beings have been saying about it since the beginning. But you can't know. Most of what you will Google will be poetic, because we deal better with death in poetry than we do in prose. We deal better with it by keeping it somewhat vague. I had an Irish friend, an old man in Ireland years ago, and when I visited him, his wife had died recently, and we went to the grave, and he said to me, "Father, it's not death that worries me. It's what happens thereafter." And we may laugh, but we all want to know, don't we? And rightly so, rightly so. Well, there's some things we do know, that there is no such thing, we as Christians at least know, there is no such thing as life after death. There is life beyond death. And we know that because of the one who is hanging on the cross, who died for us, who died a very horrible death, and rose and conquered death because of the Father's love. And that's what brings us together every Sunday morning, isn't it? To commemorate the death and resurrection of Jesus. Because we have been promised a share in that ongoing life beyond death. We have not been excused from death. We have not been told all about death. And we rightly, I think, tremble at the prospect of death, because it's something that we have never known personally. We have only known it vicariously in the loss of our loved ones. And so we have this apprehension, which I think is valid for human beings to have. Can we pass it off as if it's nothing? Even going to the hospital gives me apprehension. Being put into a MRI machine, that gives me apprehension. Well, sure, certainly death should give us apprehension. But we do have what we call trust. We trust in the one who said, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will not experience permanent death." And he said that in so many ways, and he based it on only one proposition, and that is that you are so loved by the Father that you cannot cease to exist. It is impossible. You can think of yourself before your birth, before your conception, as a non-existence. That almost boggles our minds because we're so used to existing. But you cannot as a Christian, look to the future, to a time when you will not exist, because we have the promise of Jesus. And he bases it on the love of his Father for us. A Father who loved us even when we were sinful and has promised to raise us up from the grave at the appropriate time, only because he loves us, for no other reason. And as Jesus said here, and quoting from Deuteronomy, you have to exist to be loved by God. You can't love something or someone who doesn't exist. We can't even do that. Certainly God can't do that. So our life goes on. And even though this isn't written in the scriptures, I am surely certain that Jesus said it. He said, don't be afraid, many times. It's not recorded that he said, the best is yet to come, but I'm sure he said it.